Okay, so my friend, the first thing I'm going to do is say a big thank you to our audience because people around the world, whether they're in Europe, the USA, Asia, anywhere in the world, if they're taking the time to share their presence with us today, then I will say a big thank you to those people. And to you, my friend, once more, I'm going to say thank you so much for taking the time to do this because, as we were talking about before I was recording just now, the purpose of my podcast is just to inspire and educate people. And the work that you're doing, as well as your personal transformation as a human being, is so inspiring. And today we will be talking about that. So, I will say to our viewers as well, just so they know what's happening, or to anyone tuning in for the first time, Liam Hartree back with you today. And today I am joined by Mr. Tran Vinh Tan. Now, hopefully, I'm saying that the right way. I apologize if I'm mispronouncing any of that. But Mr. Tran is an international mindfulness teacher, a person who has been through an incredible transformation in his life. And I don't always do this, but I'm going to share briefly here that Tan has worked extensively with leaders and organizations, integrating his MBA, specialized in leadership and renowned programs such as mindfulness based stress reduction, search inside yourself, mindfulness based strengths, practice, and theory U, has also translated influential books as well by a number of authors and has supported thousands of leaders and prestigious organizations, including the United Nations, General Electric, Salesforce, L'Oreal, and many others. Now, there's a lot more accolades that I have here for Mr. Tan, but the point is, this is a man who is making a positive difference in the lives of many people around the world. And today's talk is designed to do the same thing. It's designed to make a positive difference to you, the viewers, and the listeners through the wisdom we share. So, once again, my friend, thank you. And it really is a joy to share presence with you today.
Thank you, Liam, for a nice introduction. Thank you for the work you have been doing. And hello to the audience of the channel that Liam is leading.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. So, I will begin actually with your life. As I mentioned, I'd like to touch on a few aspects of your journey just to make spirituality relatable to people, really. That's the purpose. If people are going through their own struggles, their own hard times, perhaps they can learn. And then later we'll talk about, as I was saying, the bigger picture of mindfulness, as I mentioned earlier. But I would like to start with a few things of your life. And would you mind sharing with us briefly where you are originally from and where your life started? Because originally, mindfulness was not, as I understand it, a big part of your life, and you were doing different things. So may we start there, please, Tan? Thank you.
Yes, I was born in Vietnam in a family with a mixed culture. My mother's was from the Christianity traditions, and my father's is an atheist. So I had no background in Buddhism until the year 2008. That's when I suffer a lot at a personal level. As we all remember, 2008 is the world financial crisis. And I have a lot of personal crisis also in terms of work, in terms of romantic relationship, health, family. So my life literally this was collapsing outside. So I didn't have a choice rather than to come inward to find stability because everything else is collapsing. So I think it's a little bit like the case many people at the current time, whereas many things in somewhere collapsing. So at the time, I try to come inward to find the stability, and I find nothing because because of I was not aware of the importance of the inner world until that moment. So I literally practice a lot of different methods, including yoga, bioenergy. I read a lot of self development books, leadership books. I was working in the leadership consulting at the time. So that's why I got the chance to read a lot of books and works of great authors at the time. But this did not work for me at the time because I had a lot of great ideas, but it does not transform into the actual experience that can help me to overcome the crisis at the time. But luckily, I read a book on mindfulness through the Zen master, a Buddhist Zen master, Thich Nhat Hanh, which is now very well known in the world as the father of the mindfulness movement. So despite having no background in Buddhism, I very much into his work because the way he writes the books is very, in some way, very universal. It does not require me to become a Buddhist in order to practice. So I'm in, I'm in, and I practice 100% and very much into it. And it was so helpful at the time. It helped me to go out of the crisis I have at the time. And since then, up to now, I keep on practicing in this tradition. Of course, not like this, but it's more like this. But I keep on practicing and slowly integrating into my professional work as yeah, as a leadership facilitator. I bring mindfulness into this aspect and begin to work with big organizations, including the United Nations and many others big organizations. Of course, when I try to share mindfulness into organizations, uh, the very first issue is to make sure it's really universal because you cannot go to an organization with have people from all kind of faiths and just talk about Buddhism. It just doesn't work. Um, but we all know to respect the authenticity of the mindfulness, we need to know it's come from traditions, particularly Buddhism. So I need to find a way to do both. In some way to respect the root, but in the other way to let people know this is actually universals. And luckily, I begin to find many other great scientists like, you know, John Kabat-Zinn, like creator of MBSR, and then many mindfulness-based intervention creators like MBCT, MSC, and even leadership expert like Thierry Yu. In some way, his method is very much based on mindfulness practices. And because of this, I have more perspective and tools to go and to present in a way that is universal. But at the same time, I also do facilitate courses based on Buddhist uh, practices of mindfulness. So basically, that's what I'm doing at the moment. Thank you.
Wonderful description, my friend. And I love what you said there as well, the holistic approach, where you've integrated science, you've integrated aspects of Buddhism, the secular mindfulness for certain fields, the combination there. But also what you said about not a black or white approach. And by that, I mean, as you say, respecting the root, but also keeping this universal, as you say. I like that perspective. Okay, now I will come back to that very shortly as a topic. Before we do, I would also like to mention briefly your advice for
Mm.
people who are struggling in life because, very simply, I respect deeply the vulnerability that it takes to share what you're going through there in that time. And I'm sure we only heard the tip of the iceberg, as they say, with that. But for people who are struggling in that way now, over recent years, we've had things like the pandemic, we've had other financial issues in the world. There's a lot of things going on. So I would just like to, if we could share, there's probably a lot you could say, but if we could share maybe a handful of key ingredients, if you like for cooking, that people can use if they're going through a very tough time at the moment, please? Thank you.
Um, that's great questions, Liam. It's difficult for me to connect to the actual experience when I was experienced in the 2008,
Mm,
because now uh, actually I'm much better,
mm,
but I can connect just by memories. But hopefully I can some way relate to that experience, and hopefully by that to relate to a lot of people maybe suffering, and obviously a lot of people are suffering at a time. So at a time 2008, um, the world is clearly collapsing financially. Um, Many things happening, businesses closing down, and at a personal level, I was demoted from as managers into normal employees. That's why hurtful at the time. It punched to the ego. I'm on the path. I was employee, now I'm managers, and now I'm back to the employees. I feel too bad. Very embarrassing. So I was in the team, and then I become like manager, and then become like employees like them. And I think the ego will punch very hard at a time. Difficult to accept in the beginning, and then I was crazily in love with one girl, romantically crazy. I was crazily in love, and I figured out she was like, yeah, in the relationship with several people, not just me. A lot of jealousy, insecurity. It's too bad at the time. Um, those two already very bad, and then I got problem with my health. Um, my family, my blood family, I always have problem with them because we have different values, very much different values. I'm too much into, uh, you know, like humanity, what good thing people, and things like that. They're not like that in my family. That's why I don't get along very well. So I try different ways to overcome. But obviously, I cannot hold on to anything outside of me because the outside world is collapsing, literally for me. So when I go inside, I feel quite empty. Not the emptiness in Buddhism, the normal empty. There's nothing. Uh, it's very insecure, chaos, and together with that is a lot of knowledge that even words, a lot of negative emotions, jealousy, ego, loss, grief, and then a lot of knowledge. But those two combined is it's very weird. In some way, I know what to do, but emotionally, I cannot overcome it. That's very that's very bad. Uh, I remember it's a little bit, I don't know, in like in the East, there's a word to describe it, something they call tẩu hỏa nhập ma. It's a Vietnamese word. It means it means I bring too many things, practices, but I cannot master anything. It does not work. I know a lot of things, but I cannot embody it. So that's what the situation. It's too bad. It's too bad. So but luckily for me at the time, I found a path. Um, and at the moment, of course, for me at the moment when I found it, I'm so happy. It's like the person drowning, and then you just see a boat. I just was a boat, and then just hold on to that. It's literally safe. Yeah. So I don't know how to describe better, but that's what I remember about that really worst time, really, really bad time. I hope for those who are experiencing something like that, um, I hope you find your path. You find your path. Of course, not all the people who feel relatable to mindfulness. I'm totally aware there are many different spiritual paths, but as long as we know the path works, that we can find the confidence, at least for a while, at least for a few months or few years, hold on to that and sincerely practicing. I think a lot of spiritual traditions have the profound um, profound foundation for us to hold on, especially in the current time when we too much outside, especially with social media and a lot of bad news, and then with this phone that catch our attention 24 hours a day. It seems like we just look outside for a solution. It's not gonna work. It's not gonna work. The only way, uh, sooner or later, whatever's whatever path we choose is always come to the same principle. Come inward and look for the path and look for the universal and timeless principles that is always there, but we just don't have time and the courage and the patience and the guideline to follow and to live with that. So I wish for those who are suffering, like me, I used to, can find the path. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for sharing that. As I said before, I really respect the courage that it takes to share that, and I'm only asking for the purposes of helping people. I must say before we go any further that you are a very brave individual because when I'm looking at this, I mean this sincerely from my heart. If we look at it from coming through that hard time and making it the other side, the courage that it takes to look inward because this is where the answers are. Obviously, moving countries, you're moving. Even something today, like you're doing this interview, I know you speak several languages, but to do an interview in a language that is not your first language is very brave. Now, I mean that as a compliment because your English is very good, but it's also very brave. So I can definitely see a theme of courage that shows in your story, my friend. And that's not a question, but I just wanted to say to you that there's a lot of courage there in your story. Anyway,
Oh, yeah.
you're very welcome. I mean, it really shows to me. And, some of these things I have also experienced myself as well. So, these sorts of difficult times, mine was more the pandemic, the COVID time, but it's very similar to what you're saying there. Very similar, many things. Moving countries, because I'm from the UK, I live in Cyprus now in Europe and learning language. I'm learning Greek language. So I know, so there's many things there that I relate as well to your story. But anyway, so I must say as well, to contrast, to show the contrast that now you're helping so many people and you're contributing to their life. Now I know that we can focus on the accolades and the fact that you have achieved many great things, but to me it's deeper than this because you are helping people to become happier, healthier, more fulfilled. The way I look at it is you're helping people to become a better version of themselves. It's not saying, well, you have to follow this path or that path, but maybe you're saying to them, if you live a little bit differently, if you think a little bit differently, your experience of reality will change. And what I would like to discuss with this topic, please, would be how you feel when you see that happening, when you see the seeds that you have sown with those people. Obviously, they have to do the work, of course, but when you show them the way to go and you see their life changing, you see their maybe stress or the difficulties they're having to come down, what happens in your heart and in your mind when you see that change in people, if that makes sense, please? Thank you.
In short, it makes me happier. So I always think that I have only two works to do. The first thing is when I begin to realize these principles. So my first work, thing to do is to actually live by them. And takes a lot of reflection to realize that, because it's very easy to be busy with facilitating, teaching, coaching, organizing, marketing and all of that. But through a lot of reflection, I found out that the most important thing is to actually live all of that principles. So for me, that's most important wherever I am. So in Vietnam, I used to be in Norway, and then in France. Wherever I live, I always organize my life in a way that reminds me of those principles. So I always have the formal time to practice, morning, evening, sometimes even lunch, at least two, formal time, and the rest of the day, always try to connect to the practice. That's the primary intention. And once I have some principle to help me to catch up and not be lazy on the path, is I call once a day, once a week, once a month, and once a year. Once a day, at least one time, to come back to myself formally. So that's this at least. Once a week, at least a few hours to connect and to prioritize, to see what are the real priority in my life. Because it's very easy to get lost with all the work. And eventually I don't see, oh, this is actually what I want to do. So once a week is very meaningful in terms of like planning for. And then once a month, at least one mindfulness day I commit to go. Whatever tradition, I'm very open. So most of the time in Plum Village and Zen Master, tradition. But when there's condition not enough, I just join Vipassana, very open to that. So once a month, and then once a year, commit to a retreat. Of course, cannot, as a lay person, cannot live in a retreat center all the time. So, but at least once a year, to reconnect. And I think this is like, it's my top priority actually to maintain and to keep me in the past. And then the second word is to create conditions for others. And I'm aware that I'm just a little drop in the oceans of many generations in so many traditions, Buddhism, Hinduism, Christianity, so many great spiritual traditions. And recently in the form of the scientists also, there's a lot of great things. So I'm just a part of this oceans, try to contribute to that, to help to create more conditions for others. I'm very aware of my limitations. I never make my try to change anyone or to I don't make that promise. Always I try to create the best conditions. Through courses, of course, through coaching, through retreat, but it's not just conditions. I'm trying my best to create that, but the change is depends on others, and depends on when they are ready, depends on when they want. So it has been many thousand years, so I'm very aware of the limitation as human being. If this is easy work, the Buddha and many great teachers, they had already done it. This is not easy work, and we just a part, a little drop in this like rivers and oceans have been there thousands of years. So, but take a little bit at a perspective. Actually, a few thousand years is not long. If we look at the human history, it's not that long. So we just in the in some way I feel we just in the beginning of the consciousness transformation, and it seems like it's very appropriate to talk about this now at the moment when there's so many problems in the world, and when we try to just approach by solving the problem outside, then eventually it's just come back. Unless the majority and at least the key influencers of this world realize that the real solution have to come from within, then hopefully we can look forward to the next stage of the human evolutions. Otherwise we just repeat in the different forms. So I think just share a little bit perspective on your question. Thank you, Liam.
What an incredible answer. And I'm so happy that we were able to share that because, yes, leading by example really is something that you do very well. And this is something, well, this is a key reason why I chose to talk with you because how do I put this? Really, you can tell, you can tell the depth of practice. Even when I sat down with you, you can feel it. You can feel the contentment and the peacefulness and your grounding in the present moment, all of these things. And I know that, as you were saying just now, it's a work in progress, or even if you have the balance, sometimes the balance goes a little bit, for all of us, and you bring it back. But at the same time, I can still feel your practice. And to be honest, you can tell how genuine someone is in the practice is just by sitting with them, and what you said there as well is what I'm personally striving to do as well in my own life is to embody these things. Thich Nhat Hanh changed my life as well, although I never met him in person, but through his talks and his books and everything, through his presence, which continues on now, he changed my life as well. So it's very much, but again, by embodying those principles, just by hearing his voice, for example, or just by reading his words, you can feel the positive impact of that. And for me, it feels the same with yourself in that way. And I'm also really glad that we mentioned that because that is the key for making spirituality relatable. In my view, in the fact that a lot of people make the mistake of looking at this as being something separate from life, of when I'm meditating, then I'm in that space. But then I go into my life and I do all of these things. Whereas what you're saying there is moment by moment, the only moment that we have now, embodying it. I absolutely love that. And really, the reason I'm talking about that so much is there you've really connected with why I do what I do as well, back and forth. So I would also like to talk about, so that I don't go off on a tangent with that, because it's amazing. I would like to talk about your work in corporations, specifically leadership, and how we can develop more compassionate and more mindful, more aware leadership in the world. Because, as you say, with social media and with these things, we look at certain people, we look at celebrities, we look at political leaders, and we look at these people who are seen as being leaders. And as you say about the next phase of human evolution, I completely agree with that elevation process that is happening. It is happening, but it's come a long way, but it also has a way to go. But my simple question for you is, how can we create a better model of what it means to be a leader in 2025 and into the future, because then people will follow and they will change as well. And I feel that this topic, your connection of mindfulness and leadership is a very important topic to go into. It's a very big topic, I'm sorry, but again, if we can distill a few key elements of how we can create better quality leadership, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Liam. Yeah, it's actually a very big topic. But to share just a few core ideas.
Thank you.
Um, I think first of all, I think leaders, whether we have titles or not having titles, need to realize that leadership needs to start with self-leadership. A lot of people have talked about this, but it should become the basic principle. But whenever we talk about leadership, there are still a lot of people still immediately think how to lead others and how to lead organizations and how to lead a country and all of that. But without leading oneself well, there's no way we can lead countries or others well. So I think that's the first thing that you understand. All leadership of the 21st century need to agree we have to start with self-leadership. And so in my organization, we have a very simple model. So there's a core, which is in Buddhism, we call the Dharma. In Christianity, we call God. Or in Theory U, by Otto Scharmer, he called the shorts. Or Stephen Covey, he called one of the greatest leadership expert on the 20th century. He called it universal, timeless principles. So whatever words we use should be in the center. And then from that, we learn to lead oneself based on those timeless principles and lead others, lead organizations, and expand circle of influence. So yeah, so I think that's the second idea we would like to share. For the 21st century, we need to lead, of course, lead team, organization, inside from itself, especially from the timeless principles. It's not something very vague, but it's very clear. There's some principles that never change. That we can see in a lot of traditions and contemplative ancient tradition, but also recent modern science. For example, everything is changing. That's a timeless principle. 1,000 years ago and 1,000 years to come is the same principle like that. Everything is connected. That's the timeless principle. Whether I'm a president of the greatest nation in the world, you are governed by these principles. Whether I'm the most famous or the richest, we are governed by this principle. In some way, I think humans have an illusion of the power we have. So if we look at the Earth, we already see we are very little. We're just a new species in this evolution of the Earth. And you look at the galaxy, already very tiny. And the universe, there's nothing according to the universal laws. But sometimes we too much think that we too much powerful, but that is not. So by realizing those timeless principles, so we have the base. So I just said it too. Everything is changing, everything is connected. That's for example. And there's many others, but for the sake of time, I just share two. But suppose our leaders understand the timeless principle, then we will develop the right attitude, action, and vision, and how to lead others. A lot of problem of leadership at the moment is not understand properly. Everything is changing. That's why we grasp. That's why we grasp too much to the power, right? Too much to the position, and too much to the ideas. What is right? What is wrong? So in the end, it's not reality. Everything is changing, including myself, including that leaders, that presidents say that view. He himself is changing, and one day he's passed away. If we look at the history, because I think a part of the problem is because of the age of information. We have too much information, and sometimes it's lack of wisdom. It's very rare we hear, the thing that you hear in your podcast. A lot of the time, we just hear a lot of like, this and that, and then this is for fun. It is not a lot of information like that. Sometimes it's difficult to realize what is timeless. So yeah, I just share just as one example that when we don't understand everything is changing, we grasp too much to the position and to the ideas. And actually, that's the key reason of war, isn't it? We go to war because I believe, and I strongly believe, my view is right, and the other part is the same. Of course, everyone have their uh, reasoning, and it all looks reasonable to a certain audience. But in the end, everything is changing. So whether we fight with the universal law or whether we live by it is the choice of the leaders of 21st century. It's a little bit like I have a class in my hand, and if uh, I throw it, uh, for sure it will drop. This is a basic physics laws. It's easy to see. I cannot say, hey, I'm the president of a country. It's not supposed to drop because I'm the president. Or I have a lot of power. I have too much money. A lot of people respect me. It's not supposed to drop. It's not like that. It's not like that. So, yeah. So I think that's important realization of 21st century leaders need to come back to basic principles that never change and try to live by them. And again, just last points. If we look at the last, let's say, few hundred years and even 1,000 years, who will still remember? Who will still remember? Do we still remember, let's say, the presidents of countries 200 years ago? Maybe some of us, but not all. Do we remember that chairman or that company president? Not very much, but we remember the Buddha. We remember Jesus. We remember Mohammed. We remember all great teachers. Because a lot of things they share is timeless. That's why we still remember after such a year. All these great presidents, countries, and companies, they're supposed to live by those principles, not the other ways. So I think, of course, going to companies and countries, we need to understand the practical aspect of it. that of course the Buddha is not running any company. He doesn't have to he doesn't have to manage costs and make sure the company have a profit. But the Buddha never say that you should not. I just say just the Buddha, but it's the same with many other great teachers. He never say that, oh, you should stop doing business. He just say you should do business in the right way, and there's a way to earn money sustainably, and it doesn't have to go in the direction that we earn money in the cost of destroying other aspect of life. We can earn money and at the same time respecting the environment, creating great conditions for well-being, and supporting and solving social issues. It should be the way of business in the 21st century, to realize the holistic approach. I think that's very important. The old barbarisms, the old paradigms of management is absolutely obsolete. Like we all know the old paradigms. It's just in management science, but actually in all traditional science, it's obsolete. What is traditional management? That is traditional management that view people just like tool and companies just like machine. That's why we use the words, and there are a lot of corporations still using these words, like machine, stuff like that. Look at that. Look at us. Look at our human being. We're not machine. We're totally different from the AI, and definitely that's the key question of 21st century also. When AI become more and more powerful, then we need to identify what is truly human, what is truly make us human, and that is exactly what we are discussing today. Otherwise AI will take part of all of that. So that's why I talk about like the traditional management model that view human just like machine, absolutely absolute. And a lot of those great entrepreneurs that used to succeed based on those models need to rethink again. Otherwise, you will not survive in the new world, or you continue to create problems in the new world. So the new paradigm needs to adopt the holistic approach, as I share, to see things in the connection. That's also one of the timeless principles. Everything is connected. While I'm earning money, I also need to take care of my employees, the client, and the environment. It's not just then just delete the rest. That's not based on principle. So that's just one example of the new paradigms of in science, especially in management science. That's something very important to adopt. Yeah. I hope it's not too long. So this is the big topic to share a couple of ideas, and I hope it makes sense. Thank you.
It makes a lot of sense. I mean, I have to say at this point as well that I'm learning a great deal from this. There's some things that are completely new ideas. There's a lot of things I understand, but it's clarification that you're sharing, and it's interesting for me as well because I focus very much on being of service to the people listening, but I'm actually sitting here also thinking, wow, you're actually clarifying some things in my life as well. So I must say thank you for that as well, Tam. Just so I don't forget to do so. But yes, for our audience, it's a very valuable perspective. What you shared there is a very valuable perspective. And in the last sort of 10 minutes or so, and I'll let you go shortly. What you said there about what makes us human and about the management model and human beings not being treated as machines, I've observed a correlation there with people viewing themselves as machines and the mental health crisis that is definitely going on. It's not the only thing, but it's certainly a big part of it. And also, there is all of this debate at the moment, particularly about creative endeavors, writing and painting and filmmaking making, so forth. Even authorship, writing, because as I mentioned, you've translated the works of a number of great writers in your life as well. So particularly when we look to the future and what does make us truly human, I would like to go a little bit deeper into that topic of what you feel makes us human, and then we can close out with that because it is enough then for people to absorb and practically apply, which is obviously the most important thing. Going all the way back to what you said earlier, you had the knowledge when you were suffering, but you were struggling to apply it. And at the end of the day, it's better to have. Um, I always believe, like Bruce Lee said, where he said, I do not fear the man who practices 10, I think it was 10,000 kicks once, but one kick 10,000 times. And I know, in other words, it's not about knowledge entirely, it's about practice. And so that's a very relevant topic, and that's why I keep these to about an hour, because in that time, people can absorb the information, they can apply the information. But anyway, just to close out with the last topic, can you share a little bit more about what you feel separates us from the machines? Because as we move forward in time, that is going to be increasingly relevant, as you've already said. That's my last question for you today. Thank you.
Thank you, Liam. It's a great, great questions. There are many different ways to reply to it, but I will start with one model to make it easier to understand. Like Stephen Covey, he used when he described human beings, so he described there are four aspects: the physical body, the mind, the heart, and the spirit. So physical body, but there's I don't need to discuss about this. The intellect or the mind, the ability to reason, to gather knowledge, and the last two, the emotion, feeling, and the spirit connect to the source. So in this model, I think human being, what make us still human beings in the 21st century, apart from the body, obviously quite different from AI, but maybe we don't know yet. We don't know for sure in a few decades. Maybe they will look exactly the same like us. And the intellect mind, I'm quite sure they were much more intelligent than us, because there's actually already intelligence than us. They remember more, they have more information, they can remember much more information, and the ability to reason maybe will be much better than a human being. Then what left is just these two, the heart and the soul. Master our heart. I heard some experts, they say even the AI in some way they can pretend to have emotions. But what I'm saying here is the authentic emotions, the real feeling of love, care, compassion, patience, and the spirit. Spirit here is not the intellect, but the real connect, the embodiment, the experience level, connection of all of these principles. That will make us human.
Yes, indeed. That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense, and a very, very important topic going forward, because as you say, that will be redefined, I believe, or certainly people will have to clarify the boundaries of that a lot more within themselves as we go forward. But yes, there's a lot of wonderful, wonderful topics that you shared, my friend. So much so that I'm also considering if you would be open to it, possibly doing another talk with you again in the future so that we may go deeper into certain specific topics to help people if you would be be open to do so. But for now, the two intentions I had really were to make the spiritual path relatable to people and practically applicable in the sense that it's not a very intellectual construct, or it's also not something that only certain people can do. Like a lot of people look at the spiritual path and they think, oh well, it's okay for him, but how can I do that? And I hope today through you sharing how you've broken down and then broken through, as they say, in your life, that first of all helps the relatability. Then the bigger picture topics, even though we've been intellectualizing to a degree, it's also very heart centered in my view, in the sense that this is all about the transformation of the human heart, really, in many ways. And because certainly that's what Buddhism has done for me, is it has thoroughly transformed my heart and mind to this point. It's still very much a work in progress, but to this point, that's really what that's done. So with those twin intentions, we've achieved those and then some. And there's so much in here that people can listen to it more than once and take notes and learn and practically apply this. So, what I'm going to say is a big, big thank you once again for everything that you have shared, not only with your expertise and your knowledge, but also from your heart. I suppose what I'm trying to say is we've had a very nice balance of head and heart today. We've had a very nice balance of the logic and the emotion. So thank you very much for that. Thank you for your courage, your vulnerability as well, for the purposes of helping people. And all I can say is I've thoroughly enjoyed this talk, and I hope you have as well. It's as simple as that. Thank you.
I really enjoy today section, Liam, and about your comments, about further discussion. Let's discuss more. And in spirit, I'm very open to my capacity to create more conditions for others to be happier. About the comment on using podcasts and social media, I think they have their role, especially if is it in the hand of like sincerely practitioners like us. We can actually create. We can use technology in a very mindful way. So I'm very much aware of the downside of technology, but also aware of the good side of it. It's more about how we use it, and we can definitely need a lot more of mindful podcasts, like this, the one you're creating, to eventually help people to live their daily life in a more present way. Maybe can bring them to some of the retreat once in a while, or joining some groups, or like in person, which I feel there will be a lot more need for that in the coming years when there's so much thing online. So then the basic human connection will become in person again. I feel like that's a growing, that will be the growing trend. That's especially important for the work like you and I are doing. We do some of the mindful technology work, and then we bring people into the in-person experience, working and then retreat, and eventually they bring them to their offline experience with their family, with their kids, with their workers. So I feel like that a little bit like what we're doing. And thank you a lot for the time we share, and I really enjoy that. And I hope it's useful for those who are listening to your podcast today.
Very much so. And also, I must say very quickly as well, anyone who is interested to know more about this, obviously, I would appreciate anyone subscribing my side, but your side, and how can people reach out to you? Because actually, I should have said before, but because you're doing these workshops and courses, I do feel as well that even though some people in different parts of the world will listen to this and take away that way, I agree completely what you're saying there about the in-person connection becoming sort of in vogue again and becoming unique and fascinating. How can people connect with you personally? Because I know you're a very accessible person and you do take the time to answer people, which not everyone does that. So you know that's a very nice benefit, and you will take the time to help and guide people the best way you know how. So if people would like to physically connect with you, reach out to you, ask you questions, any of these things, how is the best way they can do that, please?
Uh, um, I move here and there between Europe and Asia. Um, Ideally 6 months in Asia and 6 months in Europe. Uh, so you can contact me through the LinkedIn profile. I think that's where I'm most. That's where Liam contacted me. So that I think I'm most available there. Yeah.
Okay.
So when I'm in Europe, I live at the moment. I live nearby the Plum Village International Mindfulness Center. Uh, yeah, so that's where I'm living at the moment. But yeah, but you can contact me through the LinkedIn.
Wonderful. Okay. Yes, Plum Village. I did read that actually, that you are actually there. And I thought of that, but we didn't have time to mention. And you go back to Vietnam, I guess, or other parts. Yeah, that's good. That's nice to have different areas to teach and different areas to experience as well. Wonderful. So that's how people can contact you, my friend. And once again, thank you so much for this. I will send you when I release it as well, so that if you have any uses your side, you're welcome to share and everything. But no, thank you so much, and just continue to do the wonderful work you're doing by embodying the practices. I will remember that once a day, once a week, once a month, once a year. You see, I was listening carefully, mindfully, mindfully listening, and there's many other great tips, but that's one I particularly like of breaking down the practices. So please continue to be a shining light in this world, my friend, and I wish you a wonderful day ahead. Thank you again for wonderful rest of your day, I should say, ahead. And thank you again so much for your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for watching. Please subscribe to the Simply Inspired YouTube channel, and there'll be more videos coming soon.